and attending our class regularly. This is our last class on An Apology for Poetry, which is an epitome of Renaissance criticism written by Sir Philip Sidney. For today's discussion, here I am Khalida Yasmin Sweety, lecturer, Department of English, Dhaka Mahanagar Mohila College, Dhaka, with all of you to share my experience about the arguments of Sir Philip Sidney in his defense of poetry. Let me inform you about the learning outcome of today's class. After the end of this class, you will know how Sidney refuted the 4 objections labeled against poetry, and there are some important questions from Part C for your final exam. The first objection, that is, poetry is unprofitable and there are many better ways to spend our time, or poetry is the wasted of time. But Sidney says that there are no other branches of learning more fruitful than poetry. Poetry is the most fruitful of all knowledge, and it has the power to teach and please, and also moves its readers to virtuous action. Poetry is far better and effective than history and philosophy. For Sidney, poetry is a source of knowledge and a civilizing force. Stephen Gusson attacks on poetry, saying that it corrupts the people and it is the waste of time. But Sidney says that no learning is so good as that which teaches and moves to virtue, and that nothing can both teach and amuse so much as poetry does. He remembers ancient Greek society that respected poets. The poets are always to be looked up, so poetry is not wasted of time. Charge or objection number 2 is poetry is the mother of lies. To the second charge, Sidney answers that a poet doesn't lie because he never affirms that his fiction is true and can never lie. The poetic truths are ideal and universal. Therefore, poetry cannot be a mother of lies. For Sidney, art is the imitation of nature, but it is not slavish imitation as Plato views. Rather, it is creative imitation. Nature is dull, incomplete, and ugly. It is artists who turn dull nature into golden color. He employs his creative faculty, imagination, and style of presentation to decorate the raw materials of nature. For Sidney, art is a speaking picture. For Aristotle, human action is more important. But for Sidney, human nature is more important. Sidney favors poetic justice that is possible in poets' world where the good are rewarded and the wicked people are punished. So poetry cannot be a mother of lies. Objection number 3. Poetry leads to sinful behavior, or it is nurse of abuse. Sidney rejects that poetry is the source of abuse. To him, it is people who abuse poetry, not the vice versa. Abuses are more nursed by philosophy and history than by poetry, by describing battles, bloodsheds, violence, etc. Poetry aims at inspiring and elevating souls. It is the abuse of poetry, not poetry itself, that leads to sin. On the contrary, poetry helps to maintain morality and peace by avoiding such violence and bloodsheds. Moreover, it brings light to knowledge. To Sidney, poetry is not the nurse of abuse. Rather, he blames those who use poetry for negative purposes. The last one, objection number 4, is Plato kicked the poets from his republic, or Plato had rightly banished the poets from his ideal world. Sidney doesn't agree with the statement at all. Plato had banished ludicrous poets and not poetry itself. Plato himself drew much genuine knowledge from poetry and was highly poetical in his writings. Plato himself, in his work Ion, affirms that poets speak by divine inspiration. Sidney views that Plato is, in his Republic, wanted to vanish the abuse of poetry, not the poets. He himself was not free from poeticality, which we can find in his dialogues. Plato never says that all poets should be vanished. He called for vanishing only those poets who are inferior and unable to instruct the children. And in this way, Sidney defines all the charges against poetry and stands for the sake of universal and timeless quality of poetry, making us know why the poets are universal genius. Now the question has come, why is poetry not honored in England as it is elsewhere? Why has England grown so hard a stepmother to poets? Asks Sidney. He thinks that it is so because poetry has come to be represented by base men with servile wits, or to men who, however studious, are not born poets. He says that a poet no industry can make if his own genius be not carried unto it. Now we have come at the end of our class. What Sidney maintains in his arguments is that poetry has a universal appeal arising from static appeal of its words and phrases. Sidney is against the degradation of poetry as its aim to teach, delight, and instruct the readers. Sidney, in his apology for poetry, focuses on 4 important points. He has boldly faced the traditional objections against poetry. 2. He has claimed for poetry a high place in intellectual and social life. Number 3. By his unique vindication of poetry, he has restored it to something of its ancient prestige and meaning. And number 4. By his defense of poetry, he brought enlightenment and assurance to his own generation. Sidney concludes by putting a curse on all poet haters. May they never win love for want of a sonnet. May they be forgotten for want of an epitaph. His manner of presentation, his freshness and vigor are characteristically his. His style has dignity, simplicity, correctness, and a racy humor and irony. It is an illuminating piece of literary criticism as well as a fine piece of creative literature. There are some important questions, my dear students. I think it will help you to take preparation for your final exam. First one, critically examine Sidney's view on antiquity and universality of poetry. Number 2, what arguments does Sidney put forward in his defense of poetry? Number 3, comment on Sidney's view on contemporary drama. And 4, how does Sidney show the superiority of poetry over history? That's all, my dear students, for today. I hope you have enjoyed my class. If you still have any problem, you are most welcome to ask me in the comment box, and please mention your roll number because we are counting this as your attendance. I will be available to you in my next class on lyrical ballads written by William Wordsworth. Till then, have a nice time. Goodbye.